Oh, hi there. Sorry if I seem a little upset. I just don't understand why so many of my people, they just do nothing but grumble and complain. What? Why don't they just trust God? Don't they remember the incredible things He's done since we've left Egypt? I mean, He parted the Red Sea. He gave us manna and quail. He helped us defeat the mighty Amalekites. And the best thing of all, which actually now that I think of it, you weren't there for that. In fact, I'm not even sure if you ever heard how we escaped from Egypt. Well, let me tell you about that. My people were in captivity in Egypt for over 400 years. And those last years, they were no picnic. Pharaoh was awful. He worked us hard. He would even beat us. It was horrible. God told me to go to Pharaoh and to ask him to let us go, that we might go worship God in a right way. Well, that just made Pharaoh even more mean and mad. So finally, God said that he would rescue us. So first of all, he sent 9 plagues to Egypt. Bad things. He sent locusts and frogs, and he turned their water into blood. And here's the thing, he did all those things to the Egyptians, but none of those things happened to us. But that still wasn't enough. Pharaoh refused to let us go. So God sent one final plague. And it was a serious plague. God had warned that if Pharaoh didn't let us go, that every firstborn son in all of Egypt would die. But God had told us that he wouldn't harm any of our children. But he said in Egypt, there would be crying all across Egypt as the Egyptians realized that their children were dead. But in our homes, there would be silence. The reason being, the angel of death would pass over us. As Israelites, we worship God by offering sacrifices to him. Well, God had told me to tell every family to kill a perfect lamb and to roast the meat. But then he said, take the blood and apply it to the doorpost of your houses to show that you are God's chosen people. God said that in our doing so, when the angel of death would see the blood on the doorpost, he would pass over our houses, and our children would be safe. So how do you think that made us feel to hear about what the angel of death was going to do? And how do you suppose we were thinking and feeling when we had to paint that onto the doorpost? I can tell you what, when we were painting the blood on the doorpost, we were praying for our families. Well, God told us that after the angel of death came over Egypt, we were to be ready to leave in a hurry. In fact, God said we wouldn't even have time to pack all of our belongings. He said we wouldn't even have time to throw together a normal meal. What he told us is that we should eat unleavened bread. And unleavened means it didn't have time to rise. That night felt like one of the longest nights in history. It seemed like that night went on forever. How about you close your eyes and wait? Wait like we did that night. And it may seem like we're waiting for a long time, but that's exactly how we felt that night. So let's wait. Can you keep your eyes closed as I share the rest of the story? We waited and waited silently for the angel of death to pass over. And then at midnight, we heard a sound like a wind passing over our houses. And then we heard it. A father crying. A mother screaming. All of Egypt crying and screaming. But in our houses, in the Israelite houses, not even a dog was barking. It had happened just as God promised that it would. The angel of death had passed over our houses. Well, suddenly, there was an order given by Pharaoh that we immediately needed to get out of Egypt. God had rescued us from captivity. And he led us out of Egypt. And he did it all in a night. What an incredible rescue. God saved us that night. And we refer to that night as Passover, because that's the night the angel passed over us.